"You'll never compare to your sister," my parents said. I answered, "Then she can handle the bills. I'm not paying anymore." My mom gasped. "What bills? We never saw a single dollar from you." Growing up, I always carried the label of being the letdown in the family. While my older sister Claire was racking up straight A's and bringing home trophies from debate competitions, I was stumbling over dyslexia and fighting tooth and nail just to scrape by with C's. When Claire got into Princeton on a full ride, I was only good enough for community college. When she stepped right into a polished job at a big investment firm after graduation, I was juggling 3 part-time gigs just to cover rent for my shoebox studio. My name's Emily, and for 28 years, I've lived in the long shadow cast by Claire. Every family get-together, every phone call, somehow always circled back to whatever new thing Claire had accomplished. "Claire just got promoted to vice president," my mom would gush. "Claire bought a penthouse in New York. Claire's dating a surgeon now?" And then there was me. "Emily is, well, she's hanging in there." The comparison stung, but over time I learned to grit my teeth and take it. What I couldn't get used to was the financial weight that came with being the so-called lesser daughter. It started small when I was 22. Dad had lost his job at the plant, and Mom's part-time paycheck from the library wasn't enough to keep the mortgage afloat. Claire said she was too busy building her career to pitch in, so the responsibility fell to me. "Honey, could you maybe send us $300 this month?" Mom asked during one of our weekly calls. "Just until your dad finds something new." That $300 was nearly half of what I made in a month, but I couldn't say no. They were my parents, and family helps family, right? The trouble was Dad never did land another full-time job. Our little Ohio town's manufacturing industry dried up, and at 55 he was considered washed up by most companies. Mom tried to pick up more hours at the library, but it still didn't cover the gap. 300 turned into 4, then 5, then whatever scraps I could pull together. Whenever I asked why Claire wasn't contributing, Mom's answer was always the same. "She's drowning in 80-hour weeks, we don't want to burden her." But apparently burdening me was perfectly acceptable. For 6 years I wired money home like clockwork. Sometimes it meant living on ramen for weeks. Sometimes it meant walking to work because I couldn't afford gas. Sometimes it meant turning down invites with friends because I literally had $10 to my name until payday. All the while I was slowly carving out a career. I'd started as a receptionist at a tiny marketing agency, but I had a knack for digital campaigns and social media. I taught myself everything I could, scraped together money for online courses I should have been saving, and gradually climbed the ladder. By 28, I was a senior digital marketing specialist. It wasn't the kind of paycheck Claire was pulling in, but it was enough for a decent life, if I wasn't carrying 2 other adults on my back. Still, the family dynamic never shifted. Every holiday I'd drive 12 hours home because I couldn't afford a flight, and while I washed dishes with Mom and listened to Dad gripe about rejection letters, Claire would breeze in for a quick visit and regale everyone with stories about her glamorous lifestyle. "You know, Emily," Dad said last Christmas, "Claire just closed a deal worth $50 million. $50 million. Can you imagine that responsibility?" I kept scrubbing the dishes, exhausted from the long drive. "That's great, Dad. I mean, you're doing fine with your little computer job, but Claire is really making something of herself." My little computer job. The same job that had kept their lights on for 6 years. The breaking point came in March. That month had already been brutal. My car needed major repairs, the heat in my apartment broke, and I'd been knocked down by the flu for a week. I was barely hanging on when Mom called with another emergency. "Emily, sweetie, we need a little help this month. The property taxes are due, and we're short about $1,200. $1,200? I stared at my balance and felt sick. I had $800 in checking and about $2,000 in an emergency fund I'd been building for years. "Mom, that's a lot. Can't you figure something else out? Maybe ask Claire?" "Oh honey, we can't ask Claire. She just bought a new BMW, and you know those payments must be insane. Plus, she's under so much stress at work." "What about me?" The words slipped out sharper than I intended. "Don't you think I'm stressed too?" "Well, yes, but it's different. Claire has way more responsibility." In the end, I drained my emergency fund and sent the $1,200, pushing myself back to paycheck living. That's when the suspicion crept in. Claire had been posting nonstop on social media, something I'd mostly ignored before. That night, sick over emptying my savings, I scrolled through her Instagram. Post after post showed fancy restaurants, designer clothes, weekends in the Hamptons, and that shiny new BMW she bragged she'd bought outright. A nasty thought hit me. If she could afford all this, why had our parents never once leaned on her? I started paying closer attention to the conversations. The next time they called begging for money, I casually mentioned Claire's finances. Have you asked Claire if she could help out? I saw on her Instagram she just got back from Italy. Oh, that was a work trip, Mom shot back quickly. And she has to maintain a certain image. We don't want to make things awkward for her. But making things awkward for me was apparently no problem. The more I dwelled on it, the angrier I got. For 6 years, I'd been draining myself to keep my parents afloat while my wealthy sister enjoyed every luxury with zero obligations. I had always been the dependable one, the person they could lean on, yet all I ever got in return were constant reminders of how I'd never measure up to Claire. Finally, I decided to put my suspicion to the test. In May, when Mom called asking for $800 to cover Dad's so-called medical bills, I told her I needed a few days to sort out my finances. Instead of wiring money, I picked up the phone and called Claire directly. We hadn't had a one-on-one conversation in months. Hey Claire, it's Emily. Oh hi, she answered, sounding caught off guard. We almost never called each other. What's going on? I was hoping you might be able to help Mom and Dad with some bills this month. Dad supposedly has medical expenses and they're struggling. There was a pause. Medical expenses? What are you talking about? I don't know the details, but Mom said they need about $800. Emily, that makes no sense. I talked to Dad yesterday, he's perfectly fine. He didn't say a word about any medical issues. Are you sure you've got the story right? My stomach dropped. Mom had asked me for money to cover Dad's medical bills. That's strange, Claire said. They've never once asked me for money. Not ever. In fact, Dad is always going on about how well they're doing financially. He brags about how they paid off the mortgage early, how much they've socked away in savings. He even mentioned they were considering buying a vacation home. I felt like someone had sucker punched me. They've never asked you for money? No, never. He's always bragging about being ahead financially. I hung up in a haze. Paid off their mortgage early? Thinking about a vacation home? I had been sending them money for 6 years because they supposedly couldn't keep up with the mortgage. That weekend, I drove home unannounced for the first time in years because I needed to see for myself. What I walked into told me everything I needed to know. The house had been completely redone, new kitchen, fresh floors, all new furniture, a giant flat-screen TV, and sitting in the driveway next to Dad's old truck was a gleaming new Lexus. Out back, a landscaped yard complete with a new deck and hot tub. My hands trembled with rage as I rang the bell. Emily. Mom opened the door, startled. What are you doing here? You didn't call. Nice car, I said flatly, nodding toward the Lexus. New? Oh, that. Mom flushed a little. Your father found a great deal. I stepped inside, eyes darting around the house that looked nothing like the modest home I remembered. Everything looks different. We've been making some improvements, Dad said as he strolled out from what used to be a plain living room but was now decked out with leather furniture and a pricey entertainment center. Must have cost a fortune, I said in a calm, measured tone. Well, we've been saving for years, Mom blurted. You know how careful we are. I turned to face them both. Where did the money come from? What do you mean? I mean the cash for all of this. The renovations. The Lexus. The furniture. Where did it come from? Dad shifted uncomfortably. We've been very disciplined with our finances, Emily. We saved up. Saved up? I repeated slowly. While I've been sending you hundreds every month for 6 years because you claimed you couldn't make ends meet. The silence that followed was suffocating. Emily, we can explain, Mom started. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for years? That you took my money while telling Claire how financially secure you were? That you used my guilt and sense of duty to bankroll your lifestyle upgrades? It's not like that, Dad muttered, though even he didn't sound convinced. Then what is it like? I asked, amazed at how steady my voice was while fury surged through me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been conning me for years while never missing a chance to call me the family letdown. Mom's face crumpled. Honey, you don't understand. We never asked Claire because we knew she'd say no. But you've always been so generous, always willing to help. So you exploited that? We didn't see it that way, Dad said defensively. We raised you, put clothes on your back, food on the table. We figured you owed us something. I owed you? I shouted, the words tearing out of me. I owed you so much that you could lie to me for years? That you could strip away my financial security while you drove luxury cars? You're being dramatic, Mom snapped, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. Am I? Do you realize what these past 6 years have done to me? Do you understand I've been stuck living paycheck to paycheck because I've been supporting you? That I haven't taken a vacation in 4 years? That I've been putting off buying a house, putting off dating seriously, putting off living my life because I thought my parents desperately needed me? Emily, calm down, Dad said sternly. Don't you dare tell me to calm down. I was shaking all over. You've been bleeding me dry while constantly comparing me to Claire. Do you get how twisted that is? Mom burst into tears. We never meant to hurt you. But you did. For years. And the worst part is you made me feel guilty for not being able to give more. I looked around their lavish home one more time. How much? I demanded. How much of my money went into all this? Emily, please, Mom sobbed. How much? Dad cleared his throat. Over the years, you've probably sent us around $40,000. $40,000? That could have been a down payment on my own house. That could have paid for grad school or a wedding or a dozen things that would have actually improved my life. $40,000 that you never even needed. We did need it in the beginning, Mom said weakly. When your father lost his job. But not for the last 4 years. Not since he started drawing Social Security and I went full-time at the library. You've been taking my money just because you could. We were going to tell you, Dad said lamely. When? After you bought the vacation home? The look on his face told me I'd hit the truth. You were going to buy a vacation home with my money. It's not like that, Mom whispered, but all of us knew it was exactly like that. I stood up and said, I'm done. Mom blinked at me. What do you mean? I mean I'm finished. Finished with the money, the guilt trips, and with being treated like the second-rate daughter while bankrolling your lifestyle. Emily, you can't be serious, Mom said, reaching for my arm. I pulled away. Watch me. I walked toward the door, then turned back. And the next time you feel like comparing me to Claire, remember who's been footing your bills for 6 years while she's been parading around on Instagram. That night I drove home with a storm of feelings. Anger, heartbreak, and a strange sense of freedom all at once. For the first time in years, I didn't have to budget around my parents' emergencies. 2 days later, the calls began. I let them ring. They left voicemails, sent texts, even roped my aunt into calling me. But I refused to be pulled back into their trap. 3 weeks later, Claire called. Emily, Mom and Dad are upset. They said you had a fight and now you're not talking to them. Did they tell you what it was about? Something about money. Look, I know you've pitched in here and there and I respect that, but you can't just cut them off. They're our parents. Here and there. I laughed bitter. Claire, I've sent them over $40,000 in the past 6 years. What? That can't be possible. It's exactly right. 40 grand while they told you they were doing fantastic and told me they were about to lose the house. Silence hung heavy on the line. Claire. I don't understand. They've been lying to both of us, I said flatly. Telling me they were broke while bragging to you about how secure they were. Using my money to redo the house and buy cars while I lived on ramen and couldn't even afford a Christmas trip home. Emily, I had no idea. I know you didn't. That's what makes it so twisted. They knew exactly how to play us both. Claire was quiet, then asked, so what are you going to do? Nothing. I'm done sending them money, and I'm done pretending we're some picture-perfect family. But Emily, they're still our parents. Are they? Because real parents don't lie to their kids for years. Real parents don't milk one child dry while shielding the other from any responsibility. I could start helping them, Claire offered softly. Don't you dare. The words came sharper than I intended. This isn't about money anymore. It's about respect. It's about honesty. It's about them seeing me as more than a piggy bank to shake whenever they felt like it. So what happens now? Now I finally live my own life, I said. And that's exactly what I did. Within 3 months of cutting them off, everything shifted. Without their constant drain, I managed to save real money for the first time in years. I upgraded to a better apartment, bought a dependable car, and even started dating seriously for the first time since college. At work, I poured myself into my career. Free from financial stress, I was sharper, more creative, more confident. I landed a big client, earned a promotion, and got a hefty raise. The family pressure, though, didn't stop. At first, the calls were nonstop. Apologies, guilt trips, flat-out manipulation. They recruited relatives, sent cards, even showed up in person. One day Mom actually appeared at my workplace, causing such a scene that security had to escort her out. That was humiliating beyond words. I'd been in the middle of presenting to potential clients worth hundreds of thousands when my assistant interrupted, looking pale. "Emily, I'm so sorry, but there's a woman in the lobby saying she's your mother, and she won't leave." I had to step out, leaving my colleagues and clients behind to deal with her meltdown. She was in the lobby, sobbing loud enough for everyone to hear, telling strangers her ungrateful daughter had abandoned the family. Security hovered nearby, unsure how to handle a crying middle-aged woman who wasn't technically breaking any laws. "Mom, you need to go," I said quietly, aware of the stares from across the office. "Not until you talk to me," she wailed. "Not until you come to your senses. This is my job. You're humiliating both of us. I don't care. You're tearing this family apart." Finally, security escorted her out while my coworkers pretended not to watch. The rest of the day I fielded awkward questions, trying to salvage my credibility. That night, she left me 17 voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. In the final one, her voice was raw from crying. "Emily, please. We made mistakes, but we love you. We're your parents. You can't just throw away 28 years because of money." But it wasn't just money, and she knew it. Their tactics shifted over the following weeks. First came the guilt trips about family and forgiveness. Then came the minimizing. "Dad said in one voicemail it wasn't 40,000, you're exaggerating. And besides, most of it went to things that benefited the family." When that didn't sway me, they turned to threats. They said they'd tell everyone in the extended family that I was heartless. They threatened to cut me out of their will, as though I cared about inheriting from people who'd already stolen from me. They even claimed they might sue me for abandonment, though they couldn't say what law I'd supposedly broken. The darkest move came when they began inventing fresh emergencies. Suddenly, Dad was having chest pains and needed costly medical tests. Mom claimed she'd been in a car accident and needed cash for repairs. Then it was that the furnace had broken and they were freezing in the house. Every story was carefully crafted to trigger my old instincts, to make me feel guilty for not rushing to rescue them. But by then I'd learned to verify, and every so-called emergency turned out to be a lie. Dad's chest pains never resulted in a single medical bill. Mom's accident had never been reported to the police or insurance. The furnace, I discovered after calling a local heating company, was working perfectly. They were still trying to scam me, even after I'd caught them red-handed. The pressure from extended family almost felt worse than dealing with my parents directly. My Aunt Carol called me crying, begging me to reconsider. "They're your parents, Emily. They made mistakes, but they love you." 6 years of lying and stealing isn't love, I told her. But family forgives family. That's what we do. Would you forgive a stranger who stole 40,000 from you? That's different. Is it? Because it sure doesn't feel different to me. My cousin Mark took another angle, trying to reason with me. "Look, what's done is done. You're not getting the money back, so why blow up your relationship with your parents? Because if I don't draw the line here, they'll just keep using me. They'll see forgiveness as permission to keep manipulating me. You're overreacting. They're not bad people." "I never said they were evil," I replied. "But they are selfish and manipulative, and I won't keep enabling them." The family pressure went on for months. Every holiday I skipped, every gathering I avoided, every birthday card I didn't send became proof to them that I was prideful and cold. Nobody wanted to hear why I'd made this decision or acknowledge that my parents had done anything wrong. It was Claire who finally helped me see the bigger picture of how we'd ended up here. To my surprise, instead of pushing me to make peace, she started asking questions about the way our family worked. She began noticing patterns she'd ignored before. How our parents had always treated us differently, how they encouraged competition between us, how they used our insecurities against us. "I've been thinking about what you said," she told me during one of our weekly calls, which had become a new habit since everything blew up. "About how they treated us differently. What do you mean?" I asked. I'm remembering things that didn't click at the time. Like how they'd praise me in front of you, then call me later to gripe about things you'd done. That was news to me. Like what? Silly stuff. They'd say you were too sensitive, that you weren't applying yourself, that you were wasting your potential with your career. They'd make it sound like concern, but now I think they were just trying to keep me at a distance from you. They were pitting us against each other. Exactly. And it worked. For years I felt superior, like I was the golden child while you were the cautionary tale. I never questioned why they always turned to you for money and never me. I figured it was because you were, I don't know, more available or something. More disposable, I corrected. Claire's voice cracked. God, Emily, I'm so sorry. The more we talked, the clearer it became. Our parents had been pulling strings on both of us for years. They kept us from building a real sisterly bond by feeding us conflicting stories, by always comparing us, by making sure we saw each other as rivals instead of allies. Claire started sharing memories that reframed our childhood. How they'd praise her achievements while brushing mine off as cute or trivial. How they'd tell her she was destined for greatness while telling me I should focus on being practical. How they encouraged her ambition while steering me toward safe choices that wouldn't outshine her. They groomed us into roles, she admitted. You were the caretaker, the one they could always rely on. I was the trophy, the one who made them look good without having to give anything in return. And it worked, I said bitterly. For 6 years at least. Claire's growing awareness validated my decision to cut ties. She even stopped letting them use her as a messenger, refusing to carry their pleas or arguments back to me. They keep asking me to talk sense into you, she told me once. As if you're being irrational instead of them having abused your trust for years. What do you say to them? I ask. I tell them you're the most rational person I know. And if you've gone this far, they must have done something terrible to deserve it. Having Claire in my corner changed everything. For the first time in my life, I had someone in my family who truly understood why I did what I did. But her support also forced me to confront my own resentment toward her. It wasn't her fault that they favored her. But I'd spent years believing she was inherently more valuable than me. I used to hate you sometimes, I admitted one night. I know, she said softly. I probably earned it. No, you didn't. You were just being yourself. You can't help being smart and successful. But I could have noticed more, she said. I could have asked why it was so easy for me and so hard for you. I could have seen that you were sacrificing while I got to live free. We were both victims, I told her. Victims of their manipulation. It took us months of honest conversation to unpack the resentment and rivalry that had defined our relationship for so long. But slowly we started to build something new. A real sisterly bond grounded in respect and genuine care for each other's well-being. Claire surprised me by offering to help financially. I know you don't want money from them, she said, but what if I helped you recoup some of what they took? I can afford it and it feels only fair. I appreciated the offer. But I told her I wanted to rebuild on my own. Taking her money would just be trading one form of dependence for another. You sacrificed so much, she pushed back. You could have had my life if they hadn't drained your resources. Maybe, I said, but I'm not you and I don't want your life. I want my own, built on my terms. That distinction mattered. Claire had followed the traditional path our parents prized. Prestigious school, a fat paycheck, a flashy lifestyle. But that path wasn't right for me. And without the financial drain of supporting mom and dad, I finally had the freedom to figure out my own direction. I started freelancing on the side, building clients and skills that my corporate job didn't value. I took weekend workshops and online courses in things that actually interested me. And for the first time in years, I began saving money toward my own goals instead of some imagined family emergency. The psychological lift was as big as the financial one. For the first time since college, I didn't feel tethered to constant guilt and obligation. And I could make choices based on what was best for me, rather than what my parents needed. I started therapy, something I'd wanted but couldn't afford while supporting them. My therapist helped me see the manipulation patterns I'd endured, and taught me how to hold healthy boundaries. You've been trained to think your worth is what you give to others, she told me, and unlearning that takes practice, she was right. Months after cutting them off, I still felt guilty buying anything that wasn't strictly necessary. I still apologized when I spoke up for myself. I still caught that old belief that prioritizing my needs made me selfish. But with Claire's steady support and the work in therapy, I slowly began to accept that I deserved the same respect I had always given, that my boundaries mattered, and that I had the right to build a life that reflected my goals and values. The work was hard and it was liberating, truly the first time in my adult life I felt free. In August, about 4 months after everything blew up, Claire said over the phone, I think I owe you an apology. For what? I asked. For being oblivious, she said. For enjoying the pedestal they put me on while you suffered. For not questioning why they never asked me for help. Claire, you didn't know, I told her, but I should have noticed. I should have wondered why you always seemed tight on money, should have offered to help with their bills, should have been a better sister. It was the most honest conversation we'd had in years, and it felt revelatory. The final confrontation came in September at our cousin's wedding, which I had been dreading because my parents would be there and likely try to corner me. Sure enough, as I stood at the bar getting a drink, Mom appeared at my elbow. Emily, we need to talk, she said. No, we don't, I answered. Yes, we do, she insisted. This has gone on long enough. You're embarrassing the family with this childish behavior. I turned and watched Dad approach from across the room and felt a strange calm. Childish behavior? I called out loud enough for nearby relatives to look. You mean like lying to your daughter for 6 years? Mom hissed at me to lower my voice. Why? Are you embarrassed? Worried people will find out what you did. Dad arrived as I kept going. Jessica, Emily, that's enough, he said. No, Dad, it's not nearly enough. I was done whispering, done holding their reputation above my own life. You stole from me for years while constantly telling me I wasn't enough, wasn't successful enough, smart enough, good enough to match Claire. We never said that, Mom protested. Really? Because last Christmas you told me I had a little computer job while bragging about Claire's achievements. You spent my whole life making it clear I'm the disappointment. More relatives gathered, eyes wide, and Claire pushed through the crowd, face pale. I continued, my voice carrying across the reception hall. You had the audacity to take advantage of my love for you, to lie about being broke while living off my sacrifice. Please, Dad said, looking around nervously. Please what? Please keep letting me be treated like garbage while you live comfortably? Please keep pretending what you did was okay? We raised you, Mom said desperately. We sacrificed for you. You sacrifice for me? I laughed, and the sound echoed in the suddenly quiet room. You mean like how I sacrificed my savings, my financial security, my chance at a real life because I thought you needed help? That kind of sacrifice? The crowd had grown. My aunt, uncle, cousins all watched with shocked faces. Or do you mean the sacrifice of belittling me while praising my sister? The sacrifice of making me feel indebted for basic parenting you were supposed to provide anyway? That's not fair, Dad said weakly. Fair? I shouted. You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that I spent 6 years living paycheck to paycheck while you remodeled your house? Is it fair that I couldn't afford plane tickets home for the holidays because I was wiring you money for bills you could pay yourselves? Claire reached the edge of the crowd just as I was building steam. You know what's really twisted? I said, staring straight at them. You made me believe I should be grateful for the chance to help. You made me think the one useful thing I could do, since I wasn't as successful as Claire, was to bankroll you. Emily, Claire said softly, but I held up a hand. And the whole time you were bragging to her about how solid your finances were. You shielded her from feeling any responsibility while guilt-tripping me into draining my bank account month after month. The room was silent now, even the band had stopped. So here's what's going to happen, I said clearly. You're not getting another dime from me. Not now, not ever. And if you want any relationship with me at all, you're going to own what you did and give me a real apology. Not that sorry you feel that way garbage you've tried before. Emily, honey, Mom started. And you're going to stop comparing me to Claire. You're going to stop treating me like the family failure. You're going to treat me with the same respect you show her, or you won't see me at all. Dad's face burned red. You can't give us ultimatums, young lady. Watch me. I turned to the circle of relatives staring at us. And since you're all here, you should know. For 6 years my parents lied to me about being broke so they could squeeze money out of me while bragging to the rest of you about how well they were doing. They took more than $40,000 under false pretenses while never missing a chance to remind me that I'd never measure up to my sister. The gasps were loud enough to echo. So if they ever try to pull the same stunt with any of you, at least you'll know the truth. I walked away, leaving them frozen in front of 50 relatives who finally saw them for what they were. Claire caught up with me in the parking lot. Emily, wait. I braced myself for a lecture on family loyalty, but instead she wrapped me in a hug. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Really? Really? What they did was awful, and you had every right to call them out. I broke down then, all the years of anger and hurt and relief pouring out of me. I'm so tired of being treated like I don't matter, I sobbed. You do matter, she said. You always have. I'm sorry it took me this long to realize how badly they were treating you. We stood in that parking lot for a long time, talking honestly for the first time in years. She told me about the crushing pressure to be perfect, how their praise had been its own kind of cage. I told her about always feeling like nothing I did was good enough. We should have been allies, she said. That was 8 months ago, at Rebecca's wedding. Since then they've tried 3 times to reel me back in. The first time they demanded I apologize for humiliating them in front of everyone. The second time they claimed Dad was having heart problems and needed money for tests. A lie I quickly disproved by calling their doctor, who said he was in excellent health. The third time they finally admitted they'd been wrong, but even then they tried to water it down, saying it was only about $30,000 and that some of it really was for emergencies. Too little, too late. I've built a life without their lies. I bought a house last month, something I never could have done while supporting them. I'm in a serious relationship with a man who treats me like I matter. I earned another promotion, and am considering starting my own consulting business. And most importantly, Claire and I have become real sisters. We talk all the time now, not as the trophy and the disappointment, but as equals who understand each other. My parents still try to reach out around birthdays or holidays, cards, gifts, voicemails I delete without listening. Some people say I'm too harsh, that family deserves forgiveness. But I've learned forgiveness doesn't mean letting people keep hurting you. It doesn't mean ignoring abuse just because it comes from family. Sometimes the healthiest choice is walking away from people who refuse to treat you with basic respect. I spent 28 years trying to earn their love and approval, 6 of those literally paying for the privilege of being their daughter. I'm finished. These days, when people ask about my family, I tell them about my sister Claire, how we're building something real together. If pressed, I admit I'm estranged from my parents. The money is gone and I'll never get it back, but what I gained is more valuable. Self-respect, financial freedom, and the certainty that I don't have to tolerate mistreatment just because of blood ties. My parents sneered that I'd never be as good as my sister. They were wrong. I'm not better or worse. I'm different with my own worth and my own path. And now I'm free to discover what I can do without being weighed down by people who should have lifted me up. The best revenge isn't payback. It's building a life so good their opinions don't matter. And that's exactly what I've done.